Hey, what's up, guys? Good morning. Uh, I just had a very sudden thought occur to me, actually, and I thought it would be good to make a video about it here today. And that's about, and I've had this conversation with friends before, but about how race relations have definitely declined in America since my personal youth. And I obviously am not trying to say that we're at the worst point for race relations in America. We've had many different eras of many different things, but I was born in 1994 and it's now 2022. I can definitively say that from the time that I was conscious, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, I don't remember anything from 94, but from the time that I was conscious, let's say what, 98, 99 onward. I definitely remember 2001, and living in, Southern Maryland, close to DC at the time of 9/11 and stuff like that. But I'm saying that's around the time when I was knowing things, seeing things, cognitive, basically. And ever since then, when I was young, race as children was not a big thing in PG County, Maryland. I had white friends, I had black friends. PG County is a very high concentration of black people. So there were a lot more black people than there were white or pretty much any other race at my school, in my neighborhood, around. But I didn't even pay much attention to that until really until I was a little bit older. I would say 13, 14, like middle school time, you know. And even in middle school time, the way that we became aware of race would have been like watching things like Dave Chappelle, or like Carlos Mencia, which I did not watch much because I could never stand him. Like, I just, even as a kid, I didn't think his thing was too funny. But I loved Dave Chappelle. And, they would talk about, a bunch of different stereotypes of a bunch of different races and things like that. And that's pretty much what put you onto that. Not like in a bad way. Like, it didn't, like I said, we made fun of each other. And that's honestly a lot of the way that we came together. Like, we'd make fun of Asians all together. The Asians and the black kids and the white kids and the Spanish kids here. Because by middle school, I was living in Florida, in Tampa. Yeah, we'd all come together, make fun of that, make fun of being biracial, which is what I was, make fun of being white, make fun of being black. That was one of the many things that we would joke about. And it really wasn't a high concentration of that. Like, you might get a few of those jokes spread throughout the week. It's not like every day we were going to class and just insulting each other heavily about our race. Like, there's no type of thing like that going on in our youth. In high school, there were a little bit more, I guess, racially based negative experiences. And that was through 2009, 10, 11, 12. So not 2009 through 2012, right? And in high school, the worst thing that basically in the high school, I was chilling with, like, for lack of a better term, the stoner kids. And we, a lot of them were predominantly white based off of the area that I was living in at the time. And there were a concentration of Spanish kids, Cubans, some Mexican, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, all different kind, which is very common for Florida, much more common for Maryland. That was a big culture shock for me moving down here, but that's a different story. But essentially, we had that mix of that. And there was some friction between some sets of, like, the white kids, the white stoner kids and things like that, who would be the kids who were more associated with, I don't know how to say it, but like crime. Like the kids who were like getting in trouble in school, getting kicked out of class, skipping school, leaving to go smoke and go do, adolescent ne'er-do-well things, graffiti, stuff like that. So them, and then of course, There's a higher propensity for crime in lower income residential areas, and that is where a lot of the people of other races came from at the school that I went to. That's it. I was not high income myself, so I'm not saying this to and I'm also not just white. I will give you a little hint. I'm a little hint of white in there if you couldn't tell. But there are some other things in there as well. We can definitely make a video about that. I say all that to say that I'm not trying to judge people when I'm talking about this. I'm just speaking matter of factly. So the kids who are on the Spanish side, and a lot of the black people were from the same neighborhood or areas as the Spanish people, who I'm talking about specifically, the ones who were, I guess they would have been the Spanish version of stoners too, but because of the culture difference, it didn't really mesh like that. Because I'm talking about either first or second generation immigrants of people who, some of them really mostly only spoke Spanish. Long story short, because we can go down that forever, but there was friction between these groups. And some of that was kind of racially based, loosely, but that's very loose. It was not like, hey, you can't come over here if you were like this. We had plenty of Spanish friends. There were Spanish friends on our on our side, I guess, of any type of beef that we would have had in high school, where they would have fought against other. That's what I'm saying. It really wasn't drawn down the culture. But I would be lying if there weren't racial things or animosities based off of that across those lines. So I say all that to say that was the height of that in my youth. And in 2012, we know that things started to change in America. And I'm not going to go through every single era or anything like that. I just wanted to give you the breakdown of the things that happened in my childhood, basically up until my young adulthood. And then from there, it's been pretty much a decline. And here we are now, and the real meat of my video that I'm trying to make today is about how people conducted themselves yesterday on Martin Luther King Day, and how it's been for the past few years. There has been a degeneration of the conversation between races, specifically between white and black people. But I mean, it's been happening across the boards. Everybody is having issues. Asians and blacks, Asians and whites, based off of the discrimination that goes against them when they're talking about scholarships and things like that. Spanish people and black, Spanish people and white, white people and everybody to a certain degree, and black people and everybody to a certain degree. So everybody, blacks and African people, as in, foundational black Americans, whatever you want to call them, people in America who are descendants of slaves and African diaspora. It's all just colliding now. And granted, a lot of that is because we are all more connected than we've ever been through social media. As you can notice, the train of increased friction of race relations does follow the train of social connectivity through networking and these media apps and things that we have now. So definitely a contributing factor to it. But here we are now in 2023. Wow, that sounds super futuristic, doesn't it? And we are experiencing more race-based issues and animosity than probably at any other time in existence as far as conversation. I'm not saying that the severity of the consequences of these things are as bad. It's not as bloody directly, but we don't know how to calculate the losses that are being driven by this friction. Because if we were in a better place and weren't caring so much about those kind of things, race differences, and we're actually focused on things like economics and making the world a better place, then I think that we would be better or in a better place. I could be wrong in that regard, but I know that there's a lot to fix with culture before we can even get to, any step like that. I definitely hope that we're able to move in that direction. And I think that really embodies what Martin Luther King might have been trying to say. in his, oh, I'm sorry, I took a pause because I thought my video got interrupted. But I think that that was what Martin Luther King's overarching message would have been if he could fully, articulate that through a modern lens. I might be misinterpreting him. That's what I understand his message to be. It's not about like, because loving, like, human beings don't come together and all just love each other. But understanding that our survival and even our comfort or any type of future advancements, progress, depends on synergy and communication and working together, then it's only logical that we practice those kind of things. And if there's any benefit that comes from bickering between races, I fail to see it. If you can point it out to me, please let me know. I would love to understand. Yeah. So now that we're here in 2023 dealing with a more racial based environment, we have no choice but to engage in these kind of conversations. So I guess I would just say this to say, it's really just saying, has anybody else from my time noticed this, or maybe older or younger than me? How do you guys feel about it? Do you feel like it's different than the way that I say? Older people specifically, if you've been through other generations, do you feel like it's easier now? I've seen a lot of people only on, I haven't gone out surveying the lands or anything like that, but I've watched a lot of videos that are in a similar vein about relations and asking people if they've ever seen it worse. And a lot of people say that it's pretty bad now compared to other times in their life. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments. I guess that was a very YouTube-y thing to say. I'm not a YouTube-y kind of guy, but YouTube.